Hi guys, it is Aoife from Red We Died Laughing, and I am here with a weekly wrap up. I have 4 books to talk to you about today, and the first one I am going to talk about is a very popular book, which I'm glad to have finally read, and that is On the Come Up by Angie Thomas. This is one I was reading for the biannual bibliothon, but I only finished on Monday, so just slightly after my normal weekly wrap up, so I didn't talk about it last week. I decided to wait until this week to talk about it, and this is the second book from Angie Thomas, who also wrote The Hate You Give, and this book, it follows a teenager called Bree who really wants to be a rap star, and she's a really amazing rapper. Her father was a really good rapper as well. He's very well known on the streets where Bree lives and in Bree's community, and he was actually gunned down when she was young, so she does have kind of a first-hand knowledge of gangland crime, I guess, in her family. She's lost people because of it. She has members of her family who are involved in drugs, and her mother is also a recovering addict, so you know, she has had a pretty tough upbringing in a way. She's a lot of kind of trust issues around her mum, and always been afraid that her mum might go back onto drugs, and kind of a exploration around how kind of black students are treated in schools, and sometimes violence by kind of security guards against black children in schools, and how sometimes it's just it's so out of hand, and you know, it's extraordinarily violent, and she kind of ends up going viral because of a song that she kind of makes up because of this in reaction to it, but the song isn't really who she is. It's just kind of this response, and she ends up getting kind of judged because of things she says in the song, even though, you know, it's not really what she would do. It's not really who she is. It's just a reaction, and she kind of has to start kind of struggles a little bit about that, about trying to maybe kind of upkeep this reputation she's kind of gotten for being really tough, and she doesn't want to be like that. That's not who she is. But then she has trouble with trying to change that again. Once people have already had that opinion of her, it's kind of hard to change it back. So we do see a lot of struggles like that in this book, and I did really enjoy this book. I thought the rapping was great. I've heard the audiobook for this is really good. I would definitely like to reread this in audiobook sometime to hear how the rapping sounds on the audiobook, but I did, as someone who is not really into rap music, isn't really into hip-hop or anything like that, I did really enjoy this, and I could see I could see in my mind Bree going to these rap battles and just really killing it, and I really enjoyed that. I will say there was a lot of pop culture references in this book that I feel like I just didn't really care about. There were so many Star Wars references that it just got a little bit tiring. Pop culture references could definitely be toned down a little bit. Also, one of my favourite characters in this was Bree's mom, and I feel like I could understand kind of Bree's struggles with her mom because of her mum's past drug addiction. But you could see her mum was really trying, and you know, she was doing these really great things to try and look after her family, and she was just, you know, and I just felt so much for her because I could really see it, and I could see her struggle, and I kind of feel like sometimes Bree didn't give her mum the credit that she deserves, and yeah, so I definitely was kind of siding a lot more with her mum in this book than Bree herself. Maybe that could be an age thing with me, I'm not really sure, but yeah, Bree's mum was probably one of my favourite characters in this book. Overall, I did really enjoy this. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars, and I'm really glad I picked it up. The next book I picked up was my first official book for the reading rush, and it was the Guernsey Literary and Potato Peel Pie Society, written by Mary Ann Shaffer and finished up by Annie Barrows, as Mary Ann Shaffer actually she tragically died, I think, right before this was published, so her niece is Annie Barrows, who kind of finished off the final edits and stuff for this book before it was published. This book is just such a beautiful story. I absolutely loved this. This is set post World War II, and we are following this woman in London. She's a writer, and she ends up getting letters from these people, from this guy on the Channel Islands of Guernsey. And he basically is writing her about this book he found that he thinks was once owned by her. I really like this book, and he's basically asking her, I think, for more recommendations or more information that she can tell him about this particular author. And they end up kind of having this back and forth, and the main character in this, Juliet, she ends up finding out there was this reading group on Guernsey Island when the Nazis occupied it. Correspondence strikes up. This whole book is told in letters, and this correspondence strikes up between Juliet and the man called Dulley, and then she ends up writing to other members of the group as well, and eventually she goes over and visits them, and she's writing letters back to her publishers and back to her friends, telling them all about what's going on in the islands and how she fits in there. And it is just such a beautiful book. It's one of those books that just will make you smile. Every single character is charming and quirky in their own way. I actually really wanted to watch the film of this, because that was part of the reading rush, that you watched a film adaptation of a book, and I thought it was on Netflix, but it mustn't be on the Irish Netflix because it's not on. I can't can't watch it. So I'm actually really annoyed because I do really, 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 really want to watch this movie soon, because I think the movie's going to be so good because the book is really, really good. But the way the characters are in this, the way they're so kind of lovable and quirky, and they actually reminded me a lot of Jane Austen's characters, and I loved that. They were just charming and full of wit and full of fun, and they're the type of characters that you would love to just fall into your book and fall into the pages and like fall onto like the chair of the dinner that they're having and just be involved with them and be friends with them and get to know them in person. And I just really, really wanted to just fall into this book and meet all these characters and be friends with them, and I love when that happens. So I gave this a 4.5 out of 5 stars, and I just loved it so much. The next book I read was Shattermoon by Dominic Dulley. This is a book I received from Quercus Joe Fletcher Books in exchange for an honest review. And this one is a sci-fi book. This is about a girl called Ori whose father, her father and her brother are all kind of these like con men, and basically a heist that they're trying to pull off goes wrong, and Ori ends up stealing this pendant from someone, and she ends up getting accused later on. She ends up getting accused of a murder that she doesn't commit, and all these people start coming after her, and she realizes everyone seems to want this pendant that she stole, that she only stole because she thought it might be worth a few bob, and it turns out loads of people want this pendant, that it's a really special pendant, and she ends up basically in like a life and death situation. She almost dies. She gets picked up by this old man, this crotchety old man in the spaceship, and ends up kind of in convincing him to help her go after these people who have hurt her family, and all these space adventures kind of ensue from there. This one, I'll go for the good points first with this one, because this one was very action packed. I did very much enjoy that sense of it. I really liked Ori as the main character. She was very badass, and I really liked kind of, she was a little bit of a leader, and I just really enjoyed that. And I think like for the majority of this, I just had fun reading it. It was just a fun sci-fi book, and I feel like I haven't had a really fun sci-fi book in a while, so I was really eager, like, you know, reading this, and I really wanted to figure out what had happened. Now, for the bad points, I kind of feel like there was just a lot of things that were just a little bit messy. I feel like things could have been so much tighter with a lot of the things in this book. First of all, we don't really know the background of Ori or her father and her brother, like you know, their past heists, like who they are, and why they have this kind of, they seem to have this thing against the leading families in this world, the sci-fi world, against like kind of the aristocracy in a way, and we're never really told why they hate them so much. Like, is it just like a rich poor thing? Is there more to it? Is it a corrupt thing? Like, we don't know. We just have to be like, okay, like they just don't like them for like no reason at all. And again as well, we get no kind of background of how this world works, the higher order, the lesser order, like the ruling planets. We know there's a thing called the ascendancy, and there seems to be one guy ruling it all, but that kind of comes after a while. But it's very messy. We don't get a lot of information in that sense, the way I have with other books that have had similar kind of governments or ruling planets and ruling places, and I feel like I really needed to know that information sooner than what we got, and even then we got very, very little information. So I feel like a lot of information was missing in this book. Ori, as I said, I did like her as the main character. However, I do feel she fell into the trap of a man writing a badass female character, and him just thinking that, you know, she just had to be kind of cool and pretty, and that's all there was to her. I feel like I didn't actually get to know who she was. I didn't get to know her fears, her past, what she wants from her future. She was very basic, even though I did enjoy the badassness of her, and I liked the fact that she did take charge in situations. I feel like that's all I got from her, and I wanted more. Like, I feel like there could have been so much more of her rounded out, and we didn't get that at all. There was like a tiny attempt of a romance in this that happened very quickly, and was just, you know, it was sweet, but it didn't have to happen so quickly. It was like literally they knew each other 2 days. They didn't know anything about each other. They had hardly any conversation, and suddenly they were like making eyes at each other, and it's just like, okay, like, you can hold the horses for a minute, like it won't happen like that. I feel like a lot of what happened in this book as well could have been drawn out. Like, I feel like there's bits that could have been cut, and the good bits in this could have been drawn out, and it could have just been a better rounded book and a tighter book overall. I feel like there was a lot of things that were like very bitty and very fast and rushed, and I feel like there were stronger parts in this book that could have been just expanded upon, and it could have made the book a lot better, in my opinion. So yeah, even though I did enjoy the action parts of it, and I did enjoy just kind of the rush and the thrill of the book, there were a lot of bits in this that were very messy, and means I can't give it any more than a 3 out of 5 stars. So yeah, I will read the second one, and hopefully maybe things will get a little better with that one. But yeah, there were just some disappointments with this book, despite it being fun and, you know. And the last full book I finished this week was A Dog's Way Home by Bruce Cameron, a very cute doggy contemporary story. We are following a dog called Bella, who is living with her human. She originally is kind of born as a stray, and she ends up getting taken in by this boy called Lucas, or this man called Lucas, and his mother is a disabled US Army veteran, and she ends up getting adopted by them. And then these kind of things happen where people kind of take a disliking against Lucas and his mother and start complaining with the fact that they have a dog in an apartment complex where they shouldn't have a dog. And animal control ends up saying that Bella is a pit bull mix, when she actually probably isn't a pit bull mix, but they start saying that, you know, they can't have pit bulls in the state of Denver because they're illegal, and they're going to have to take Bella and destroy her, basically. And they end up finding someone who will take care of Bella for a few weeks while they try and find somewhere else to live. And Bella, you know, she obviously doesn't understand this, and she decides that she's one that wants to go and find Lucas and find her way home. And she jumps the fence and ends up on this kind of trek across the Colorado mountains back to Denver to try and find Lucas and try and find her way home. So this is basically like Homeward Bound in a book, which I love. It's so cute. I love Bella's narration. I love how W. Bruce Cameron writes dogs. Like, I read him the way he has dogs think, and then I'm looking at my dogs and I'm like, I wonder if you think like that, like, you know, the kind of way. It's really, really nice, and it's really sweet. Bella is just a very good girl. She was a very good dog, and I very much liked her. She strikes up some really nice friendships. She ends up striking up this like really like best friendship with the mountain lion, which was really interesting. She calls the mountain lion Big Kitten, which I loved, and she just has these nicknames for people that she sees that are just really funny and that I really loved, and just her thought process behind things. And there were like some really nice moments in this book where we're seeing how important a pet's support is to people, how, you know, emotional therapy dogs and emotional support dogs, how much good they can do for people who are suffering trauma and suffering pain and mental health problems, and how important it is that dogs are allowed into these facilities if they are helping patients, and how all these rules and regulations around dogs can sometimes just be to the detriment of people who need help. And we also kind of see a little bit of how US Army veterans are treated, and how sometimes they end up kind of on the streets or in like mental health facilities, and, you know, they need more help than they're probably given. So I did like that was explored a little bit in this book, all through Bella's narration and what Bella sees. So I really, really enjoyed this one. I gave it a really strong 4 out of 5 stars. Absolutely loved it. I love W. Bruce Cameron. He's one of my favourite authors, and he'll probably be one of those authors that I buy all their books, because I just love reading how he writes dogs, because they're so good. I'm currently halfway through my last book for the reading rush. It is The City in the Middle of the Night by Charlie Jane Anders. I am currently about almost 200 pages, 170 pages in, so I have a little bit more to go because it's like a 500 page book. Managed to choose the biggest book for my last book, so yeah, I'm not sure how much I will get into this read of this today, but yeah, I am enjoying this so far. It's like a strange sci-fi. I won't even get into what this is about at the moment because it's complicated. I'll have to figure out exactly how I want to explain it, so I'll talk about that next week. So that's everything I have read. Please let me know what you guys have been reading, if you've read any of the books I've read, if you're interested in reading them, and I will see you guys again next time.